Alright, welcome back if you're already a member of this exclusive YouTube channel. Going to talk about setting up the Ray FF. I've been getting a lot of questions about how I set up, how I get to the setups that I get to, and also been getting even more questions about people having trouble matching the setups that I am putting in my guides. So, going to kill two birds with one stone here. Um, and go through all of that, how I get the values I do, and how I change them. Now, just a little bit of preamble. If you are in the fixed series and you're not getting into the open series because you think the setup is too complicated, it is not. Go into your iRacing setups. It's got the default setups for all the tracks that you want to drive on, and honestly, the iRacing setups are not bad. If you put in the practice, you will get good lap times. You will do fine in a race. This isn't the stock setup isn't going to take you from first place to last place if you're practiced and have it down. I prefer to do my own setup because I have a specific way I want the car to feel, and so I play around with it. If I honestly put in the time with the iRacing setup versus my own setup, is it a big difference? No, no, it's not. Um, maybe depending on the track, a tenth or two or three a lap would be the only difference. Um, and probably if I tried harder with the iRacing setup, I could probably even close that more. But having the setup the way I like it gives me more confidence, and confidence gets you driving faster. So I'm not against fixed series. I've been in those. Um, they're absolutely fine. The only issue I have is with the Ray is that it's a 12-minute race, so that is a lot of time to put into for a 12-minute race. It's just no fun. So I am in the open, and if you are in the fixed, I really suggest you give the open a try. A 20-minute race is a lot more fun than 12 minutes where your tires just start to get warm and the race is over. So we're going to do Summit Point here. It is the race coming up this week, so I figured that was a good idea for a place to start. So this is the basic iRacing setup. So again, in that menu, you can load this up. So what I do personally to start a setup is I get the car as low as it goes. So you just click on the slider here. 17 I found is basically as low as it's going to go in the front, and then 16 in the back. So the rake, that's the angle of your front end to your rear. You want a positive number, so you want the front end lower than the rear. In an aero car, that's obviously a lot more important. The Ray has no wings, but it's probably just good fundamentals to have the front lower than the rear. It also lowers the center of gravity, and so that's where I start out. Um, Once I get on track and start practicing, if you're hitting curbs and they're disrupting the car, I'm gonna increase the ride height. As well, some tracks, hilly tracks, if you're bottoming out and you're really bottoming out hard, I'm gonna raise the ride height. But I start out on the low and then work my way up as need be. The next thing I'm going to do is, well, roughly I'm going to adjust the brake bias. Having done the Skip Barber series before, it has wings. It's not really an aero car per se, but it does have wings. I was running the Skip maybe 52, 55% with the Ray with no wings. I'm running it usually around 56, 58%. But braking is a totally personal thing. Depends on the type of pedals you have, depends how good you are at using them. Um, so if you are locking up a lot, try increasing this. The more you increase it, you're probably gonna lock up less. The higher you increase this, though, the less effective your brakes are. But we are going to get into a little bit more about braking here in a little bit. But that's a good place to start. So I usually start this around 57% and then figure out if I have to increase it or decrease it. Then the spring rates, I soften those up. So you just click on these, you soften them up as much as you can. For me personally, that's what I prefer. The softer they are, the car can become a little bit more understeery, but by softening them up, you get more grip. You lose a little straight line stability, but I prefer grip over the other options. It's where I start at as well. That's just going to be a starting point to get on track. Camber and toe in. I think this is where a lot of people run into trouble with my setups. I'm going to talk about these in a little bit. We're going to leave those for now because I leave them when I'm first establishing a setup as well. So yeah, we did lower the rear. ARB. Now this is going to help rotate the car. I leave it at the stock setting. When I get on track, I'm going to feel out the car and see if I find it's too much understeer, too much oversteer, then I'm going to play around with that. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah, and the damper compression in the front and the rear, we'll talk about that in a minute. Fuel. The amount of fuel depends on the track, but for the Ray I found pretty much it's 12 to 14 liters depending on the track. 12, 13, 14, just track dependent. Gear stack, I leave it at the iRacing default to start, and basically what I'm looking for is in the fastest part of the track, the longest straight usually, am I hitting the rev limiter by the turn-in point, or am I a couple of dots away from reaching the rev limiter? If I'm reaching the rev limiter at the turn-in point, that's probably the right gear stack. If you are a few dots away from the rev limiter at the turn-in point, then that maybe is too tall, and then I will try a shorter gear stack to see if that is going to match up a little better. Again, if you're in that long straight and you're reaching the rev limiter halfway down the straight, then your gear stack is probably too short. So that's the initial thing I do to get the setup started. Then I'm going to do some laps, make sure I know the track well and I can keep it on track, and put in some consistent times. And then I am going to basically decide, okay, is it too much understeer, oversteer? I'm going to make those adjustments. The damper compression in the front, if there's a lot of uphill or downhill braking, usually it's a good idea to maybe increase this a notch or two. This stiffens up the front and keeps the rear more planted for braking. The damper rebound, this one, the rebound on the front and rear, when you start playing around with this, it is very easy to unsettle the car. This is a tricky one. You want to definitely have a lot of caution when you are adjusting this. I've actually kind of started just leaving it alone, really. And then another thing here I didn't talk about is the ARB in the front. So the lower the value, the tighter the turn-in. So if you increase this value, you're going to understeer more. Basically, I think originally I may have played around with this a little bit more, but recently, in the past while, I pretty much leave that at 0. 0. You don't want more understeer. That's a very rare thing. So so that is about it as far as getting the car set up initially. So once I have we'll talk about the rear ARB here. So this one's really important. So if the car's understeering, increase this number. You know, if it's at 15, go to 20. If it started at 10, go to 15. If you find that the back end is kicking out too easy, if you're spinning too easy, then go from a 15 to a 10. Or if it started at 10, go to a 5. This one really has a big influence on the car. You don't want to have the car with too much understeer. Of course, the more you can rotate the car, the better you can rotate the car. The faster your lap times are going to be, as long as you're not spinning out. So that's how you adjust that. So once I've got all of that adjusted and I'm comfortable, I'm happy, the car feels good, it's responding the way I want it to, then I'm going to do some laps, and then I'm going to look at the tire pressure. So what I've done here is this is the tire pressure once I had the car established where I want it to be. So I've started playing around with the camber and toe a lot more recently. So with them at the stock values, you can see here in the front, pretty good. It's what is that? Oh no, it's not very good. I'm sorry. So we got a big difference between the outside of the tire and the inside of the tire. So the inside tire is 93. That is, oh, actually no, I screwed that up. So yeah, that's only 7 degrees difference. So that's pretty good. Rear tire again, 6 degrees difference. So that's pretty good. Tire wear is pretty even. On the right hand side, though, you can see the difference is quite a bit here. It's 12 degrees difference. Also, the outside of the tire is not getting as much wear, so that's basically telling me that the inside of the tire is doing a lot of work and I'm not using the whole tire patch. On the rear as well, same thing, 12 degree difference. And again, the outside of the tire is not getting as much wear, which means that the contact patch is not as good. So that's where I'm going to start looking at adjusting the camber, and as well I'm going to start looking at fine-tuning the toe as well. So what I'm going to do is, this is how I'm getting to adjust these and getting the values to pass inspection. So basically I would want to lower the camber on this one, get the tire a little bit more flat. So I just click it down 2 notches, press apply. So it jumped on me, and it does this. Unfortunately, iRacing, the setup guide does this. So I had this at 1.7, I pressed apply, it changed it to 1.8. It also changed the toe value. So this is just, it's a little bit of a slow process. You may want to save your file when you start playing around with these, because it can get screwed up pretty easy. So I'm going to lower it now again to 1.7, press apply. This time it's stuck. Now you do want to keep the toe-in values the same, but I am changing the camber values in order to get the contact patch with the tire a little bit more even, as well as the tire temps a little bit more even. And this is just a trial and error thing that I do some laps, see what the tire temp's like, see what the tire wear's like, and just keep lowering the camber until I get to a point where it's a little bit more consistent. So just changing the toe back to the proper value, press apply, hopefully it sticks, and it did. So just be careful when you're adjusting these values, if you are. As I said, when you adjust them, and if you hold it here and you don't press apply, it takes a few seconds, but it will change on its own. But again, it changed the toe value. Also, if it gets really funky, it may even change something in the rear as well. So you really have to watch out for that. If you're having trouble matching up my guides, this is probably where you're getting stuck. Is you've changed one value and a different value also changed. So I'm going to change the camber here to get those tires more evenly temperature-wise and wear-wise. Now, I also am going to adjust the toe values. So if I want the car to turn in more, if I want the front end to be a little sharper when you turn the wheel, you want to increase these values. So bring it up to 1.1 and 1.2. You have to feel it out on track and see where you're comfortable at. Now, having the toe value turned higher is going to, iRacing says, increase tire temp, which I think it does a little bit. If you look on those screens, we'll get back to that in a minute, but it does, I think, increase the tire temp. Now, I was hoping when I first started playing around with these that means the laps you need to get the tires warm would shorten, but in my experience it hasn't. It not noticeably anyways. Maybe if you really adjust these in a big number, it might make a more of a difference, but cold tires are still cold tires, and the toe value does not seem to shorten that trek. Now also, by increasing the toe values front and rear, you're also improving braking performance. So even if your braking here percentage is a little on the higher side, by increasing the toe value, you are making the braking more effective. So without locking up the wheels. So by having a higher percentage on the brakes, it helps reduce lockups, and then increasing your toe values then shortens your braking distance. So it isn't a bad idea to give these a little bit of a bump up. If you find that you're braking too early and it's not effective enough, bumping these up will give you a little bit more of a boost to your braking performance. That's really where I find that they have real importance as well. The front toe in, the more you increase this, it does make the front sharper. So when you turn that wheel, it's going to be more precise, more reactive. Obviously, you don't want that too much, otherwise you could then run into problems with the back end kicking out again as well. So same thing with the rear. If you increase this, it's just going to improve your braking performance a little bit. I don't find that, at least if you're not making a major change on it, I don't find that it affects rear grip. If you really increase this to a max value, perhaps it might. And then the other thing is, once you have adjusted the toe values here, I do find that it is potentially a little bit more fuel needed. So here at Summit Point, when the toe values were neutral, I ended the laps, with, I don't know, half a lap of fuel to spare. Once I had the toe values increased, it was a little closer to the line. So just be aware of that. It may have a little bit of a difference on your fuel consumption. Nothing major, but it could possibly catch you out a little bit. So what I will do here is I will show you the final setup. It is a little different from my track guide that I'd put out earlier. I did make a few changes here. So in the end, I did increase the ride height a little bit. The curbs here, you do want to attack them a little bit, and I found being as low as you can go, it was a little disruptive to the car. I did add one click to the compression. There are a few braking zones where you're just slightly at a bit of an angle, and having this increased makes the back end a little bit more stable. 57% was the braking value. And again, I did increase the toe in the front, and I did increase the toe in the rear, and the camber. So it's just trial and error, did a bunch of laps, and then slowly changed the camber value on the right hand side to get the tire wear and tire temps more in line. As well, I did change to an ARB of 5, left the compression the same, and 13 liters is getting me 17 laps. Again, with those toe values, I was getting about 17 and a third laps. With the changes to the camber and the toe, I'm getting 17 and basically to the end of the straight. So it is a little tighter on fuel. So I will show you here. This is the new values. So again, less than 10 here. We've just got 7 degrees difference. That stayed the same because I didn't adjust the camber. 6 degrees, that stayed the same. Then on the right hand side where I did adjust the camber, now you can see it's 11 degrees, so it's 1 degree down, but I am getting more even wear on the tread, so there's more tire on contact with the road. In the rear, I did get it to 10 degrees. The outside is still not fully there, but I don't want to change the camber too much. I don't want to stray too much. The temperature range is pretty good, so I left it at that. I did try and increase it more, but I found that it seemed to, the back end seemed to feel a little looser, so that's where I stuck it at. So it was an improvement. Now, changing the camber like this, is it going to make a big difference to your lap time? No. It's a small difference, maybe a small improvement. I haven't found that it has been negative. I mean, obviously, as long as you keep the changes within reason. So that's how that camber is arrived at. If you want to keep the camber equal from one side to the next, you know, it's not going to be a big deal. But I'm trying it out, so we'll see. We'll see as time goes by if it feels better, if it's an improvement or not. But basically, that's the rundown of how to change those values. Just be aware when you click one thing, it may change another. So the best thing to do is make the change, click apply, and then make another change, click apply, and just watch those values and make sure they don't jump or change on you. So hopefully that helps you out. If you've got any suggestions or questions, just leave a comment. I will try and get back to you. Good luck out there, and we'll see you on track. See you next time.